Okay guys, so we're back here at Classic Automotive Training School in front of our test engine. And Kurt today is going to set up our carburation that we had built a few months ago. And the whole idea is to get them set up, test them, see if they'll actually work. Hopefully they'll function like they should. We have some elevation differences from here to Las Vegas, but Kurt doesn't seem to think that that's going to be an issue for a test run here. The beauty of doing this now is that we'll know before we start our engine that we have functioning carburetors and we won't have to be working anything out once we start our engine up. One question I've got for you, Kurt, is let's just say we do a fresh rebuild. You need to really start the car up. It needs to really be timed right. You need to have carburation kind of in the ballpark. And then you got to break your cams in. You can't really be screwing around with that, can you? I mean, you need to just start it up and do a proper cam break-in, like 2,000, 2,500 RPMs for extended period of time.
The actual, if you're using a Porsche camshaft, there is no break-in required on those.
Really?
They do a really good job of hardening it.
Okay.
That's more of an American cam thing for like Chevys and Fords, where you've got to start it up, run at 2,000 RPM to break the cams in. And it's something that's kind of been moved into the Porsche realm by people that really just think they should do it. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything, but it's certainly not necessary.
That being said then, so the cams were having a problem on my car because the cams that came out of it are not the correct cams for the car. And I have searched the world and not found the correct cams for my car. I have managed to find a company that will do a regrind. They'll weld them up, regrind it to the proper spec, webcam out of Riverside.
Yeah, great company.
So that being said then, so they're going to be modified, rewelded, reworked. So what do we do then? Because they have recommended break-in procedure with that.
If they're recommending a break-in, then you want to follow their recommendations. If you are using a factory Porsche camshaft, then they do not recommend that at all. They just say put them in, start it up, and run.
Okay, so we need to have good functioning carburation. We need to have good timing in the ballpark.
In the ballpark.
For startup. And when we start it, are we using break-in oil? Are we using standard oil? What do you recommend? What do you like?
So I always think that you should run the oil that you're going to run in the car the whole time.
Okay.
So yes, the way that I normally start an engine is I'll start it up and I'll do about 100 miles on that first initial oil. You don't need to load the cams up with a bunch of molly grease or anything like that. Okay. So there's nothing really to come out at that first time. I let the filter catch whatever little pieces it's going to catch.
Okay.
Start the engine, run it, get it hot, make all your adjustments. As I said, I put about 100 miles on the engine before I do the first oil change.
Okay, so starting it up then, really the only thing we're concerned with is just camshaft break-in and then timing.
Yep, that's pretty much about it.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and set these carburetors up, get started. Okay, so here's our carburetors just sitting up on the bench here before we get started. And we have taken them off our manifolds, and we're going to be using Kurt's manifolds. So there's a last look at them before we test and run. Okay, here we go. Okay, Sensei, it looks like you got it all hooked up, so what are we going to do next?
So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to fill up the fuel bowls. I'm going to turn my fuel pump on, pressurize the system.
Okay.
I'm going to be looking down the tops of the carburetors, make sure we're not dripping down through the center.
Okay.
And make sure we don't have any leaks first.
Okay, let's hope for no leaks. What kind of fuel pressure are we running?
We're going to run around 3 psi, so it's
Okay.
pretty low pressure. Just want to make sure the needles and seats are all shutting off. If they're not, we would see fuel dripping down through our pre-atomizers right here.
Okay.
So far, so good. Doesn't look like we got any leaks anywhere. And I can hear my fuel pump is
Nothing gushing out.
So we should be go. I'm going to shut that off and just prime the accelerator pump circuit.
Okay.
Oh, no, spoke too soon. Come over here. See all that fuel sitting in the top of that?
Yep.
That is because the needle and seat didn't seal off.
Okay.
Oh, same on this side too.
Got one.
So we're dumping a bunch of fuel down there.
Okay, so we got that resolved. Basically what we had wrong here was under our caps, not tight enough needle and seat on both our front needle and seat, so we got those tightened up. Leaks seem to be resolved, so we're moving on to the next step.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, you have.
You just turned it on.
I'm always like, what did we get?
Sarah, we got you in the camera.
Oh, wait.
Okay, so now we're going to verify the float heights
Oh,
and just make sure everything's look like they're a little high there.
Yep.
coming out.
Okay, so we're just pulling one shim out of there, and hopefully that'll correct our overfilling of our float bowls. What are we taking out of there, Kurt? Point
About 1 millimeter.
1 millimeter. It's going to make a big difference, hopefully.
A little on the low side now.
That one shim makes a huge difference. So with it running, it'll go even lower.
Maybe.
So we need maybe half that distance.
Well, we took out 1, so that means we need a,
Let's go half that, like a half a millimeter.
yeah.
See what happens.
Well, the back one's on the high side. Front one looks okay.
And
The
a half,
back one is about to overflow, so we
like
need
another half millimeter out of the back if it's the same setup.
to see what we got in.
Okay, so we've run our carburetors. We had a couple issues with them, which doesn't surprise me. 50 years old, you never know what you're going to run into. Plus some adjustments in the shop, and this is a great way to verify it. So one of the things we had was 3 needles and seats, half millimeter, needed to be adjusted. Also, the caps and needle and seat weren't tight enough, so we had some leakage there. Just tightening fixed that. While Kurt was going through all the, what do you call these?
Mixture
The
screws.
mixture screws. He had a couple issues on this side here where they wouldn't quite seat all the way. So what we're thinking is, because I'm using the original screws that came off these carburetors, we're thinking that the newer more modern screw is going to be a better screw because it's a little bit longer.
A little bit thicker.
A little bit thicker, and so that way it's going to seat and be able to give us a finer adjustment. So I'm going to switch those out on his recommendation there, get them a little bit closer. Also inside with the floats, we checked our floats, and he really recommends that we go to a plastic style float for several reasons. This one over here in the front, when we drain the fuel bowl and then refilled it back up, it froze. So, and that could happen while you're driving. If that happens, you could flood, you could have a fire. So it's just not worth it. Some of these parts are just really old, and it's just best to update. So that's what we're going to do. Other than that, Kurt, what do you think? I mean,
Other than that, I think you did just fine. I mean, everything is there. It's idling nice on the engine. We've got pretty good mixture response. Everything else is doing what it's supposed to be. It's just a few teething problems.
yeah. So just switch out a couple parts here, modernize our screws and floats, and probably have a better set of
Yeah,
carburetors.
you should be good to go.
Okay, I think we're going to do that for safety reasons and just to get it more right. All right, Kurt. Well, thanks a lot for all your help on this project. I can't thank you enough. I don't know what I would have done without you on these carburetors, because this would have made it really rough on our first startup after 44 years. Okay, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.